Hello and welcome to another retro Gran Turismo review, once again from GT2, and as you'll have seen from the title and the thumb, it is of course featuring the Mitsubishi FTO LM race car, and for those who are unfamiliar with the channel, this is another Patreon collab video wherein those who decide to support the channel can, as one of their perks, choose to craft and create and sometimes even star in their own videos here on HSGA as well. And of course, this is once again a returning face, part of the ongoing team, Ness. So if you are interested in becoming a part of that team and supporting the channel and my work at the same time, then of course click the link to the Patreon and check out those perks below. But that's it for the intro. Now over to Ness.
Greetings from my bedroom. Welcome to episode 113 of GT Masters, with the final licensed prize car review for Gran Turismo 2. Not with my personal favorite, not with arguably the best, but with by far the most popular of these four. The Mitsubishi FTO LM race car. This is probably just from my experience on the internet, but the FTO race car seems to be up there with Castrol Super. What? Seems to be up there with the Castrol Supra, the Viper GTSR, and others as one of the most popular race cars across every Gran Turismo game it's in. Because yes, this is not only different to the FTO Super touring car from Gran Turismo 4 and 6, but also the FTO race car from Gran Turismo 3, which may very well be reviewed in the future, either by me or Mike. That car has more color options, has more power, is heavier, and in general it's a different style of race car. That said, however, that's just how popular this car was even back in the late 90s when Gran Turismo was super hot. Despite the fact that the Mitsubishi GTO is a much more popular road car and was heavily marketed in Gran Turismo 1, it's the FTO that carries on the Gran Turismo franchise as a competitive machine, not the GTO LM. And there's a very good reason why that's the case and why this car was so popular and still is to this day. It's a fantastic car. It's not one of my personal favorites. In fact, I very much prefer the FTO GP version R. But even I cannot deny just how useful this car is. In fact, remember in the Copperhead review when I said that that was the best licensed prize car in Gran Turismo 2? This car really makes me regret making that statement because it's just as good as the Copperhead in this game, if not even more versatile. So, we don't know what the engine displacement in this game is, but we do know that it produces a fairly modest 549 horsepower. That, ironically, is lower than the Del Sol LM from last time, both in this game and Gran Turismo 1, but that immediately makes it more useful in the 591 horsepower limit races, since you can use this car in those events. What's more, due to the fact that the FTO was already a pretty lightweight car to begin with, not being too far off the Integra Type R, this is rather light for a 4-wheel drive car, which by the way makes sense in the case of the FTO race car. Mitsubishi after all. But going back to the weight, this is a 929 kilo car. That's only 40 kilos more than the Del Sol LM, which, let me remind you, is a compact, rear-wheel drive race car. That means that the horsepower per ton is very high in the case of this car, 582. So, you have an all-wheel drive race car, weighing less than a ton, and is naturally fit for compact racing. You got yourself a very good recipe for success as a result. Now, I have to admit, this car doesn't feel as dominant in this game as in Gran Turismo 1. Even though I find this car to be slightly overrated in that game due to the Super Impreza rally car being better in my eyes, this was still a top 5 race car, for one of the best launch out of any race car, 2.6 to 60, 9.2 to 400 meters, and 16.8 to 1000, and for being an extremely consistent race car. This was of course won by winning the US Japanese Sports Car Championship, where you also have a 50-50 chance of winning the Viper GTSR. And I'll lay my cards on the table. As a massive Viper fan, the GTSR is low tier in Gran Turismo 1. What? It's just as underwhelming as the GTO and Chaser race cars. No, you can put your jaws back up. So, unsurprisingly, this was the much more popular car. In Gran Turismo 2, however, not only is this for the last time in my series a prize car for winning the International A license, I don't know what the most infamous test here is, but I personally hated the Alpha 155D TM at Rome Circuit 1. But with lower power than usual, this doesn't fly away from the competition as other race cars. Look here, I'm struggling to pass this Ford GT40. Now with that said, that GT40 is also a cheater, as it produces more horsepower than regular GT4 normally has, and can surprisingly beat the GT1 as a result. Plus, I still passed him, so it's I guess you could say medium difficulty race car to use. One interesting quirk about this car, however, is that along with the rest of race cars in this series, although it's more significant here, you can use this in rally events. I guess this is either a sneaky bonus for winning these licensed for exclusive returning Gran Turismo 1 race cars, or, like much of this game, a bug. I must say that it's a pretty good rally car all things considered. It's no Focus or 206, but it's still capable for beating all the other rally cars in career mode, barring the Suzuki Pikes Peak monsters. So overall, if the Copperhead is a licensed prize car to go for if you want a good car for the lower power races, then the FTO LM is your go-to for the higher end racing. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of people in the past have done so, since it convinced Polyphony to continue making the FTO race cars for the upcoming games. And hey, if it's still hard getting Gran Turismo 2, there's always Gran Turismo 1 for you to check out. Listen, if I haven't made it very clear in the past couple of reviews, it's to play Gran Turismo 1. Bottom line, the FTO LM is a fantastic car, and it's worth your time to go for. And so, this concludes my Gran Turismo 2 prize car reviews. It was a very nice way to freshen up the Patreon video lineup, and although I do wish I could have reviewed some of those cars in Gran Turismo 1 instead, the Del Sol especially, I still want to pay respects to the channel by reviewing the latest car in a specific game. Now, speaking of Gran Turismo 1, I know it's been over a year since I last did a video on that game, but Nismo still hasn't done another GT5 Prologue review, and it seems unlikely that he'll do one anytime soon. So I'm still waiting before I can finish up the rest of the car review. That said, however, to make up for it, I'm making a special Gran Turismo 1 video next time I show up on the channel, and I think you're going to like it. But for now, as always, this is Ness Pajamas saying, fluffy pillows.